Welcome back to the Peace Build. My name is Nicholson, and this is a channel where I'm dedicated to teaching about the mechanics of well-being for myself, for you, and for all of humanity who wants to listen. Today's talk is from the chapter of Strengthening Your Willpower, specifically about how discipline invites dopamine. Just today, this is my third attempt at shooting this very video, because I went to one location, there's too much noise. I went to the next one, too much noise. And then I had to wait for about 30 to 40 minutes for a machine over there to stop doing its work so I could begin talking. And to be able to maintain this position of being here with this intent to shoot this video and not wait till the next day, recognizing that this is the right time and place to do it, here and now, this takes a considerable amount of discipline. Because easily, I could have given this up and done something else with my life. But when you get to a point in time where you mature enough to realize that not everything is important, but the few things you want to dedicate yourself to are important. You want to develop a scaffold of behavior around that guarantees its success. And the success that we all want is to live a pleasant life, to live a life of connection, of love, of consistent peace, all these invisible things that's around us, that's within us. These are ephemeral things that need to be protected. When you want to protect the worshiping of God, you build a church. When you want to protect the creation of wonderful food that you want to share with other people, you create a restaurant. When you want to protect the wealth, you build a bank, some sort of earth-like scaffold around which you intend to protect. This is discipline. For me, it means being a disciple of a certain quality that you want to maintain in your life. So peace is that quality that I want to maintain. Therefore, I have developed the discipline of the Peace Build, this channel, buying this camera, this microphone, these clothes, this hair, sitting in this location. All of it is essentially to maintain that certain invisible quality that's visible inside. And when this quality is protected through my own actions, through my own way of being, there's no more chasing of it. There's no more hoping that when I go out into the world that I might be peaceful. There's no more stretching myself out of proportion with the hope that I will be able to express love and be loved. There was no longer a doubt that the wealth that I live with naturally and in a material way will manifest. Without discipline, you can only guess which way you can go. But with discipline, with a sense of focus, you can determine where you want to go. You can determine that you will become a generator of dopamine rather than a chaser of it. The culture that we live in today is filled with these red dots that when you chase them, as soon as you catch them, they disappear. Just like a cat chases a red dot on a wall, as soon as it catches it, it's gone. But when we get to this level of being human, we have the privilege of being able to generate the quality of our own experience. But we can only do this if we instill a consistent, focused line of behavior, which is discipline. Discipline comes from the word disciple. A disciple is just a follower, not of a person, not of a place, not of a thing, but of a certain essence of life. There are certain people who are disciples of strength, and they're athletes. There are some people who are disciples of expression, and they become actors. Others are a disciple of leadership, and they become presidents. It's all across our society today. All of the greatest people in life, when you look at them, they're not just doing whatever they want. They're not being led around by their preferences. They're being led by the principles of life. People who have achieved the greatest amount of pleasure in their lives have discipline, because most people, at some point or the other, have received peace, love, wealth, because life is so abundant. Life is so intelligent enough to circulate its blessings across the population that people at some point or the other have experienced something that they desire. Maybe it wasn't a lot, but it was there in their experience. And what most people go through is the desire comes in 1 second, it's gone. The peace happens on accident. The connection happens on accident. The romantic love happens on accident. The wealth comes to you on accident. And when something comes to you on accident, it's bound to leave because you weren't conscious of the process to attain what that was. But when you instill a sense of discipline, when you become a disciple of what you want to understand, of what you want to manifest into your life, then there will be no confusion of how you got it. And when you do, it will stay. And then this creates the invitation of pleasantness. Instead of going out there to seek it, you begin to invite it. So the hedonist and the yogi, truly they want the same thing. Both of them want to have a state of pleasantness that is at the highest level possible. It's just the strategies that both of them pick are different. One of them is magnetic, the other one is not. So this isn't about blind instruction that's given by an authority. This is not about you being put in a violent situation to follow someone. This is about taking the block of marble that you are that hasn't been chiseled yet. And day after day, moment after moment, sharpening it into the form that you want. To be able to sit like this and wait for this long, for the right moment, and grow my hair to this point and develop this channel, it didn't come overnight. It came through lots and lots of discipline. It came through lots of vision and planning and execution. And understanding that ultimately the internal process is most important. So forming your behavior around an internal process that you like, that's the key. And you'll find that the process that you like, this is where preference is okay. Having a preference that you like. You'll find that even that has its own laws. When peace comes into your life, it goes because you broke one of its laws. When connection comes, it goes because you broke one of its laws. When wealth comes, it goes because one of the laws that contain wealth, you broke it, so it left. So when you create the ambience around yourself that is balanced enough to invite the dopamine, it will come. For me, this is the whole point of doing a spiritual practice, is you become attractive to bliss itself. And the moment you become attractive to bliss is the moment your intelligence skyrockets. Because there will be no more compensation, there will be no more desire to chase, to level yourself out. There will be no more, I'm not enough here because I haven't been practicing discipline. So now I have to go out and get it. Now I have to go into the lottery machines of the world to feel what it is I really want to feel in my core. If you bring yourself to a certain shape, if you learn how to sit in a certain way, if you learn how to breathe in a certain way, to eat in a certain way, to grow your hair, to dress, to develop relationships, to build a business, to drive down the street, to walk down the street, if you do it all in a certain way, then you'll find the state that you like the most. It will be able to stay with you through the ups and downs of life. For me, my main discipline is meditation. And meditation is so important because it allows you to embrace the shocks that you'll see at the surface. Inevitably, there will be sounds and noises at the surface. And for me, I've come to understand that it's quite disruptive. All the noises around me is something that I wanted to get away from for a long time. And because of where I live and how I live at this moment in time, I understand that I can't get away from it, but within myself, I can develop a certain shape in my psychology, in my body, in my nervous system, and my attitudes that will create the silence that I'm looking for. So being a generator of silence and not spending all my time trying to compete with the world and trying to get it, this has allowed me to live the life that I desire. And it's not that everything on the outside is going my way, but within myself, there is a victory. within myself, there is a keen sense that the lifestyle I have is here. And that's not something someone can take away from me. Because there is a shelter around the peace. There's a shelter around the connection. There's a shelter around the love. And for me, this is the greatest way to live, because there's no more a bargain that you have to give up your clarity to achieve. You don't have to give up your serenity to find safety. In fact, your security, when you live with a sense of discipline, it's here. No matter what's going on around you, if you understand how to maintain a certain shape, then your life is pretty much complete. It is complete. When we look across the creation and all of its beauty and its enormous size and tremendous order, we can see that every little thing has a certain discipline about it. We as human beings are the only creatures on the planet who have the ability not to be disciplined. But when we look at the elements around us, when we look at the earth, when we look at the air, when we look at the sun, and when we look at the ocean, we can see that they all maintain what they are. Their character is very consistent, so we can depend on them. When we want to learn balance, we look to the earth. When we want to learn how to move in a fluid way to adapt through the world, we can look at water. When we want to understand how to let go and how to move through life without a sense of being stuck anywhere, we can look at the air, we can look at the wind. When we want to understand how to be consistently passionate about life itself, so we can exude the light that we want to share with others, we can look to the sun. We can look at this ball of fire in the sky. And when you take the time to spend time with these elements, you yourself become elemental. You yourself can flow like the water, just like Bruce Lee said. And just like the elements, you can become an essential character in society and within your community. You can become a pillar that people can depend on to do a certain thing. Not to do everything. Not to be perfect. Not to say every word right. Not to achieve things that are way beyond your capability, but simply to move in a certain way, simply to continue a certain process. For me, I have found that when I deviate from my own process, when I try to think like someone else, when I try to behave like someone else, when I try to recover from my mistakes like someone else did, I switch my internal process for another discipline. And my competence goes out the window. When there's an obstacle course in front of two people, one person has one training and they will get over it in that way, and another has a different training and they will get over it in their way. But when one looks to the other for guidance and says, I need to completely abandon my own discipline for the discipline of someone else, because when I look at them, it seems like it's working, that's when you yourself, you falter. That's when your insight vanishes. When your inspiration vanishes. When your ability to lead vanishes. Because just like the elements, just like the grass, the trees, the birds, the whales in the ocean, the earthworms underground, all of them have one expression. All of them have a certain channel of discipline that they have the fortune of their instincts that is already protected by nature. But we as human beings, we are conditioned to go outside of our nature, to go outside of the natural discipline that gives us the competence, the joy, the connection, the serenity that we want. As I sit here today, I know for a fact I'm not perfect. And there was a time when I tried to be like that. There was a time when I tried to conform to what I thought was a good life, and what I thought was a kind person, and what I thought was a brilliant way to think, and a likable way to speak. But that was taking my pleasure away from my life. Yes, I could have developed a mask in society where I could fool people that I was living a happy life, but underneath, there is a certain discipline that I was ignoring. It wasn't a teaching that someone gave me from the outside, but it is a certain pattern of behavior, a certain style of behavior that comes up on its own, that gives me naturally the dopamine that I look for. I don't have to look for direction on social media for how to behave. I don't have to receive a certain amount of likes or views or reception. I just have to keep doing what I'm doing. There's a great quote in society. I believe it's from an Asian philosopher. He said something like, there are two important days of your life that are paramount. The first one is the day you were born. And the second one is the day you recognize why you were born. It is the day you recognize how to be, how to behave. And then everything else happens on its own. Everything that's worth it in life, truly, it only comes when you adopt the discipline of being yourself. When you become a disciple of the self, of your natural quality that you have, that nature gave to you. The question of whether or not you will wake up and be joyful, just as you did when you were a child, it won't be a question. It'll just be how you are. To commit to being a representative of your own perception, of your own perspective. Truly, this is the only way you can live. And if you don't let life drag you in that direction, because life will, if you move outside of your own perspective, then eventually, life will drag you into being true to yourself. But if you have the foresight to understand that when you look out in nature, everything is itself. Everything is following its own nature. And you take the initiative to just do that. No matter what anyone says on the outside, then you will find you're a success within yourself. You will find that the pleasantness is being generated from within you just because you're being yourself. It's so simple. But so many people don't do it. So many people haven't taken the time to explore the inner dimension of who they are. And they believe that if I just look outside and work on that hard enough, then my life will be settled. But this is not true. How life actually works is it only moves if you on the inside move. You can spend so much time trying to develop a certain shape, a certain discipline in the world, in an occupation, in a relationship, in a certain hairstyle, a certain way of dressing, that you feel will give you the embracement of life that you're looking for. But in fact, when you put more time into developing a shape outside, that same energy that you put into that investment, you take it away from developing an inner shape that you enjoy. It is the inner shape, the inner discipline, the inner form. This is what gives you the security, the dopamine, the ability to be attractive. This is where it all comes from. And you will find that when you trust this discipline inside, when you work on that as a priority, then naturally the world around you will become organized. It wasn't from the outside that I developed this way of speaking, or this hair, or these clothes, or this way of sitting, or anything like that. It all grew from within myself. Because deep within, there's the Creator, there's God, there is the universe, there is the supreme intelligence that works from the inside out. All of the instructions, all of the patterns of behavior, of discipline, that deep down you know how to embody, all of it is here. So the purpose of this channel, to the best of my ability, is to inspire you to look in that direction. Even if you feel the words that I'm saying are of a great order and a great service to you, it's all for nothing if you don't practice uncovering your own vision, uncovering your own discipline, to turn yourself into an invitation for the intelligence of grace to move into your life. That is the best thing I can offer here. Because that ultimately is what will keep chaos at bay. The perception of chaos is not that it is real, it's just an order that's unseen. And if you go throughout your life and you don't perceive any order on the outside, but you can perceive the order within you, then you'll be good, because the internal chaos will subside. And if the internal chaos has subsided, then there was no way your external world would be chaotic. There's no way. And the way to do this is simply through your attention. There's a great story in Mesopotamian culture about how the god Marduk defeated the god Tiamat, which was the god of chaos, where the other gods couldn't do it. Because Marduk, he had the discipline from nature of having eyes all around his head and being able to speak magic words, which simply means to pay the utmost attention to your life to where you have a full scope on what is happening around you and within you. And then from there, you will be able to speak the words, the spells that will support the life that you desire. This is what creates context. Having an undisciplined attention, having an undisciplined way of speaking, though you can stutter at times like I have throughout this talk, but speaking with the intent of what you want to have happen, looking at exactly what you desire, and not speaking things into existence that you don't want. Not looking at things that you don't want. Looking at things that you want, speaking things that you want. This is truly what will keep chaos at bay. But most people, they haven't developed the shape to be able to invite the sense of intensity that comes from perceiving and speaking towards what you really want. The thing they want is over here, it's shiny, it's blissful, it promotes long-term well-being. But you want to look over here. You want to talk about this. You want to put yourself on a diversion that won't really promote your life, but will promote an identity that is scared of moving towards what you really desire. But if you recognize that this thing over here that you want is only a reflection of that inner quality that you want, then there will be no fear of moving forward. The job that you want in the future is only a reflection of the wealth that you perceive within yourself. The partner that you desire is only a reflection of the love that you have cultivated with the discipline of taking care of yourself. The ability to think on your feet in a conversation is only a reflection of your ability to introspect when no one is around. The ability to make great art in a museum that will blow people away for years to come. It is truly only a reflection of your quality of being attracted to beauty and nature and being able to pay attention to it to the best of your ability. So along this path, if your willpower is weak and your peace has dwindled and your hope has gone, recognize that there is a certain discipline that you have put to the wayside. And there is a certain instant gratification that you have invited into your life that in fact doesn't get you further, but actually brings you further away. Anytime you break the disciplines that you know you should be doing is the same time that you put yourself at a distance away from what it is you truly desire. But anytime you make the mistake of foregoing your disciplines to chase the dopamine instead of being a vessel that invites dopamine, both yourself and the goal and the state of being that you want, the business you want, the relationship, the way of speaking, the way of behaving, that comes to you. Both you and the thing are moving towards the center at the same time. Lots of people say we need to meet God in the middle. We need to meet the universe in the middle. And discipline is the way to do that. You cannot wander through the world with desires and not capability. There has to be a certain process to achieve what it is we want, how we want to feel, how we want to think. And this is not something that ChatGPT or Google or any teacher, even me, this is not something that can descend upon your life in a second. This takes lots of time and effort and gradual progress to where you can slowly build into a state of stability like a mountain. The society in which we live in today, though it is imperfect, was only created with the order it has today, with the affluence it has today, only because the people before decided that in their state they wanted to bring forth a certain vision, a certain form that they had in their mind, a metaphysical object that they wanted to slowly bring down into the physical. And they could have only done this through a state of consistent behavior, through a state of discipline. This is why this channel is here, this camera, this microphone, even the clothes I have, it all came from people who decided that they wanted to guard a certain essence that they saw within themselves. And when so many people before us have developed these disciplines, what tends to happen is that people get comfortable by living within the disciplines of someone else, and they don't have their own. And this can, over time, generation after generation, make the population less intelligent, less strong, less creative, less able to think for themselves, less able to just be peaceful, to just be observant, and move with the flow of life. We forget that the lives we live today are only a product of people who were focused before us. But if we take the disciplines that are here today, even from the earth, the stability of the earth in the society in which we live in today, if we recognize the pattern of how all of this is working, how it got to this point, and we put our own patterns on top of that, through our own creativity, through our own sense of focus, through our own sense of inviting knowledge into our lives, then we can make it better. The pleasantness that we see around us, it doesn't have to stay at this level. In fact, it must evolve because all of life is changing. All of life is adapting to becoming a greater version of what it is now. And if we make the decision that every day we're going to focus on one quality, we don't have to do many things in life. But just as in the ecosystem, when every species has its one job to maintain a certain way of being, If we do that ourselves, then the lives that we live, the essence that we live, that we want to amplify into our lives, it would happen. So if you're at the point where you feel a frustration in the way your life is going, not even on the outside, but within yourself, within your emotions and your thoughts, then it's time to instill a sense of discipline. It's time to learn how to meditate. It's time to learn how to write. It's time to learn how to eat well and treat people kind, and know that you can't just do whatever you want and live well. There's a certain point in a seeker's